Hey Modrunners, welcome back for another episode. Today's episode we're going to be talking about photography and stability, and more specifically tripods and monopods. There are a lot of times out there when you have a very large lens, telephoto lens. This is a 70 to 200 telephoto zoom lens. So when I'm using this and I'm zoomed out at 200, I want to make sure that I'm capturing the images so that there is no camera shake, as well as being able to have the most stable platform. A lot of times when I'm using this lens, I'm going to be shooting on a tripod. Now obviously I can't show you my tripod because it's being held up for my camera right now. But the idea of a tripod is that it's going to give you stability. When you're shooting super zoomed out and you're shooting at slower shutter speeds, a 30th of a second, a 60th of a second. Generally, it's really hard to hand hold something. And remember the episode that I showed you about tucking your arms and holding your camera. To keep your camera from getting camera shake. And camera shake is, things that when your hands, just natural vibrations in your hands, will make the picture blurry. Generally, it's said that you can't hand hold something lower than whatever the size of the lens is. Let's say I'm shooting a 30 millimeter lens. If I'm shooting a 30 millimeter lens, then I'm not going to be shooting faster than 1/130th of a second. If I'm shooting a 60 millimeter lens, not faster than 1/160th of a second. And if you have questions about shutter speed or the actual aperture and shutter speed, you can go back and look at the episode previously. I'll put a link down at the bottom for the other episode where we talked about f-stops. But with shutter speed, once again, this is a 70 to 200. So technically, I won't be able to hold this zoomed all the way out, shooting faster than 1/200th of a second. Now, this particular lens also has image stabilization in it, or what Canon calls IS. That allows me to actually hold it. It's got some mechanical stuff inside so that I can hold it at a slower shutter speed than 1/200th of a second. However, I generally tried, if I'm going to be shooting at a slower shutter speed, if possible, I'm going to be shooting on a tripod. All right? Sometimes you're not able to use a tripod because you're in a confined area and you can't really set up a tripod. So a monopod is great for that. And this is a telescoping monopod. It opens up. And it actually opens up fairly large so that I can actually get a large, depending on where I'm standing. The photos that I shot when I was shooting photos for on the racetrack and shooting the horses, I used a monopod. I was shooting at a fairly fast shutter speed of 500th of a second, but just hand holding the weight of a heavy lens, and I actually put the extender on this guy, made it a lot more comfortable. So you're going to rest the lens on top of the monopod, and it's connected to the camera body. And now, when I'm shooting, the weight is not as tiring on my arms. So having a monopod is great for that. Going to graduations. Now's the time of year. Graduations are happening. You're sitting in the stands and you don't want to be having a heavy lens. Then throwing it on a monopod makes a huge difference in terms of how comfortable it is to be able to actually handhold something. And you can extend it down to right in front of you, so basically you're shooting that. And that's stability. When I'm shooting at a really, really slow shutter speed, let's say I'm shooting nature and landscapes, and I'm shooting with a 24 millimeter lens, or I'm shooting with a wide angle lens, and I'm getting all of nature. Nature's pretty stationary. It's not going to move. So I'm going to be shooting those at a very small aperture. If you remember from the last episode, let's say f11, f22, very, very small opening. But now I'm going to have to actually have, for the exposure to be proper, I'm going to have the shutter speed open for 1/10 of a second or half a second, something really long. And I'm not going to be able to handhold that. So definitely putting it on a tripod that's stable, and that way you can set it up to take your picture to get your nice stable shot so that everything's in focus and nice and sharp and crisp and clean. And that's stability, whether it be a monopod or a tripod. I do recommend, if you are shooting nature and landscape, to get a tripod, and also you can get a device so that you can trigger it with just the push of a button, because even just touching the actual shutter to actually take the picture, that little tiny vibration is going to make the camera shake a little bit. So using a device that actually allows that to take the picture, it's great. And I'll have another episode where I talk about those later on in a future episode. So that's today's episode of photography, stability, monopods and tripods. I hope you have a great weekend. Go out and shoot a bunch of pictures. Please subscribe to the channel. Leave comments down below. I'm debating on whether I'm going to start releasing videos every Friday, which is what I've been doing, to maybe just going every other Friday. So if you are looking forward to seeing these videos every Friday, please leave me a comment down below and let me have some feedback from you guys. I'd appreciate it, just because I want to know that you're enjoying the videos. Otherwise, I might just go every other week instead. I hope you have a great weekend, and whatever it is you go out there and do, make sure you find your passion.